Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hello all, welcome back to All for United, that time of the week again. We've had 3 shows today. People can never doubt our commitment on this channel. 3 different shows talking about all different kinds of things. There's always talking points around United. But this time it's Reds Weekly. I didn't say Reds Roundup then, that's the old name. Reds Weekly with some familiar faces and a brand new face. Cian, if I'll come to you first, how you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on the channel, and I hope you're all well.
Nice one. Well, yeah, great to have you on. Obviously, as I said to you in message, I've been trying to get you on, or wanting to get you on for a while. So it's good to see you making your debut. And what a you're not going to get a better show than this to make your debut on. So sorry to all the other shows on for the rest of the week. Stu, how you doing? I'm assuming you just come back from football as always.
yeah, gym and footy. You've got a bit of a dodgy right knee, to be fair. So I tweaked it a bit a couple of weeks ago. So it's not good really, and at my age, pal, that's never a good thing. It really isn't. But apart from that, all good. To be fair, my gym was all right. You caught me on the squat rack when the watch was going nuts because the group chat was giving it the big one again, and then in between there was your message. So happy to jump on, pal.
I'm glad to have you on. And Alexi, looking clear now with your brand new laptop and everything else. How you doing?
Oh, it's great. I've had a broken laptop, or been using a broken laptop for over a year, and just having a laptop that works and doesn't take 40 minutes to turn on is really it is actually honestly, the last one was so bad. The last time I ever turned it on, it took an hour and a half to turn on, and at that point I was like, I've got to buy a new one now. And I have a new one, and now I've got a new one. My phone's not charging anymore, so that's good. But we move, I guess.
All good on that. Well, it's our benefit that you got yourself a new laptop anyway, because you get to come on shows like this. That's highlight of the week. Hello to everyone in the comments. By the way, I can see you. There's a few people watching on Facebook and Twitter. I can see. Come over to YouTube and hit the like button. Stu, we'll start off with the women's side briefly. We'll just talk about the game yesterday. Obviously 2-0 win over Bridgewater. Pretty difficult in terms of, they're a lower tier side. Dodgy pitch, bit of a rotated side. Obviously, Gunnar Solskjaer came on, made a senior debut. It was just a standard kind of FA Cup game, wasn't it, on a rough pitch? Yeah,
it's nice to see those types of pitches re-emerging. I grew up on pitches like that, probably worse, actually. Hardly any grass, rock hard balls, that type of thing, really. And it's not like the carpet that they play on at LSV or at Old Trafford when they get to grace that turf. So, we said a few weeks ago, didn't we, that Mark was just looking for that recipe. He was just looking for the players to hit a little bit of form, just looking to work out personnel-wise who was going to be his favoured midfield trio. We knew that Hayley Ladd coming in would be the catalyst. She scored yesterday, didn't she? Bless her. It's her 3rd goal, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And they seem to have got this rich vein of form flowing, which is great. And I just hope that that they can continue this, take it through to Chelsea in the is it the Conti Cup semi we've got, and then we've got City. We've got a busy couple of weeks. I know we've drawn City in the FA Cup, haven't we? Which I thought was ironic.
The fewer words said on that, the better.
Yeah, and it was good to see Ollie's daughter make an appearance as well. So I think that there's a happy balance. It was always going to take him a long, long time to find that balance. It doesn't matter whatever level you play. It's always very, very difficult coming to a new club and try and affect the way that they've been playing for the last 3 seasons under Casey. And I think he's proven his worth, really. So it's great to see. I did see I think I saw in the stand a couple of first teamers went as well, didn't they, to watch, from what I could see, which was good. So all in all, routine win though, Connor. To be fair, as you said, routine win, and but you just move on now, don't you? Chalk it off. Game's gone. That's up to midweek.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the whole Gunnar Solskjaer thing as well. I'm glad Mark Skinner said it in his interview afterwards that she didn't get that appearance because of her name. She got it on merit. She has been tearing up the academy. She's one of those players, along with Edwards, that are just too good for that level. So whether she deserves a loan out to like a championship side or something like that, but she got it on merit, and she looked all right when she came on. I've watched the game back today. It came out on the FA player, but yeah, I think you're right. It was just one of those routine games, and you mentioned the fixture list, and it's just something I wanted to round up on in regards to the women's side. Obviously, we got Chelsea Wednesday, Arsenal away on Saturday. Then we got City before the international break, and then we got City again. And should we win on Wednesday night, we could have City again straight after. So we could have City three weeks in a row. Should we get through to the Conti final? And it's just, I'm not going to I could talk all day about the women's draws. They always seem to. The United draws seem to be rigged, and I think it sounds bad as a fan saying that, but the fact they're not televised and the fact we keep getting these tough draws.
Yeah.
But where can you see this kind of before the internet? Let's take the City FA Cup game aside. The 3 games before before the break, we've got Chelsea, Arsenal, City. 3 games that massive importance. Get to our first ever cup final, and we could push on in the league and secure top 3 status almost. Where can you kind of see this going?
Well, it's a tricky one, really, because look, Arsenal aren't playing particularly well, but they're stubborn. And I noticed Miedemar got herself on the score sheet, didn't she, over the weekend? And that's always a bit of an issue. City, with Steph Alton coming back, and I think I mentioned, what I think of Lauren Hemp. I think she's absolute quality. I'd love to see Lauren Hemp in a red shirt and Park on the right. They look very, very dangerous. And that Bunny Shaw, she's big, strong. She's always got the ability to pop one in the back stick. So they're a very, very difficult side. And I think they're just coming into a nice vein of form as well. If we can get past Chelsea, if we can go to Chelsea like we did to Arsenal, we can go to Chelsea and beat. It is away, isn't it? Yeah. If we can go to Chelsea and beat Chelsea, then I think Skinner can start looking at it and start saying to the girls, look, this is a very difficult place to come. They are the reigning champions, Champions League finalists, etc., etc. But we've got to concentrate. I always say this with the men's side: we've got to concentrate on playing our own game. Can't worry too much about the opposition. And if we can get, can't pronounce her surname yet. Is it Senior?
Sina Brune.
Sina Brune, yeah. If we can get her, get some chance creation for her, because by all accounts she's trained exceptionally well since she's been here. And there's a possibility she'll get on the bench, I think, Wednesday evening. But if we can get her up to speed quite quickly, and from what I've seen of her, she's excellent. She's an excellent finisher. She really is good in the air, strong, quick, good feet. So I think if we can keep Zellum, Lads, and Bo Risa as our threesome in the middle, and then utilise Toon and Sina Brun, maybe with Russo as well, I think will be quite a difficult team to beat. It does mean though that I don't necessarily see Leah Goldson getting some game time. That and she's playing very, very well at the minute. So I think it's very, very difficult for Leah. I would say she'll be more of an impact sub.
Yeah, it's a good position that we found ourselves in now with obviously the signings that we made. I'm glad that he got backed, because I think we were on the show this time last week talking about the fact we only had 2 centre backs fit. How can we go into a season with only 2 centre backs fit? So yeah, I'll be there on Wednesday night. I think a few of the people in the comments.
Yeah, you go. And I think you ticket, please.
We'll make the noise as we always do, and if we come out with a win, we'll be on the pitch. So,
you got an old-fashioned ticket, didn't you? You had an old-fashioned ticket delivered. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I actually got a paper ticket, which is good to see. You don't get that very often nowadays. I just want. They're so much better, aren't they?
Do you know what it is? I hate having my season ticket. It's on a phone, and you kind of just want the cards rather than like a thing on your phone. Because it's like a memento, isn't it? You don't just want a little scanny thing.
Yeah, mine's on me. Yeah, I've kept my cards though. I've got my little credit cards still for. I've got loads of them actually, and the old paper.
I was going to say, John Foster's in the comments, which he might be when he watches this on repeat. John, I'm going to call you out here, because obviously with the women's season tickets, you do get it on your phone, same as the men's QR code. John has actually got a little lanyard He printed it off and has put it on a piece of paper and he's got it on a lanyard. So you can go the old-fashioned way if you really want it.
Mr. Binary. Mr. Analog, as we call him.
Before we move away, obviously, onto the main bulk of the show, talking about loan deals, I just want to talk to yourself, Kieran and Alexi, about, obviously, Ollie was there yesterday, pitched at the game. He was pitched at the academy game, obviously, last week as well. Just how good, because we're all massive Ollie fans, obviously, on here, staunch supporters of him. Just how good it's been to see him kind of still involved in the club, because there was a bit of a worry when he got sacked that he'd just go back to, go back home and just kind of, I don't know, not fall out of love with football, but kind of stay away for a bit. Kieran, I'll come to you first, obviously, because I've seen your tweets about it as well. You kind of glad to see that he's still involved in and around the club?
I am, yeah. It actually surprised me that Solskjaer has stayed in Manchester from what I've seen, because I actually said, when just after he left as the manager role, I actually said maybe he will go back to Norway and enjoy Christmas and things like that and have some family time in Norway and things like that. And he hasn't. He's stuck around Manchester and he's supporting the women's team and he's supporting his daughter who plays for the women's team, which was great to see her make a debut. And it's just always great to see Solskjaer in and around the club, helping the club again. And I've been a massive advocate of him. I still wish he was in the manager role. It just couldn't work out in that way. So it's always great to see him in and around the club.
Yeah, and same for yourself, Alexi. I'm assuming you share kind of similar feelings. It is good to see him kind of still in and around there.
Yeah, well, I think they're the first father-daughter partnership to ever come through in a football team before, which is really impressive. And like you said, it's amazing that she got a chance. And like you said, it wasn't just on her name; it was on merit. And hopefully she has a brilliant career.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
She's got style, hasn't she?
Yeah, 100%.
She's got his running style. She's got his action. It's amazing, really, when you think about it.
She's got a song as well, hasn't she?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I think John and Andrew are in the comments. We'll be able to say because they were there yesterday. But it was quite funny seeing her kind of backing away, quite shy. Obviously, when when the fans were singing her song, she kind of was at the front and she just edged to the back and hid behind all of the other players, which, you know, I guess it's her first experience really of that. And when you've got people like Nat and Anthony and Andrew and John and that, shouting at you,
it's a bit frightening, isn't it?
Not as well. I think one of the most wholesome. Sorry, Sean, one of the most wholesome parts of this season has been like obviously Ollie's daughter making her debut, but like when Robbie Savage's son made his debut for United, I really like stuff like that because one, it makes you feel old because you remember these guys playing and their kids are playing, and it's just really like wholesome just seeing their kids play, especially like obviously the main example of it is Peter Schmeichel's son Casper, who has arguably had as good a career, really winning a league and a cup with Leicester. I see as being equated to almost the level of what Peter achieved because it's like miraculous. But yeah, no, it's just nice to see, isn't it? Really.
And the commentary was great to hear as well from Robbie Savage when he was making his debut. It was great to hear that.
Yeah, 100%. It's some much needed positivity we've needed this season around Man United because, on the pitch it's not been great, particularly obviously on the men's side, and earlier on in the women's side as well. It was bad at the start of the season as well. So it's good to see some positivity finally kind of creeping in and around. We're moving on slightly into the main bulk of the show, and the first player we're going to discuss is probably someone who is going to take up a lot of the conversation because it's somebody I've got a very strong opinion on. I'll come to you first, Keaton, actually on this on Donny. I guess the first kind of question is, do you think that's the right move for him? Obviously, he's gone to a Premier League club, which I'm sure people would say you needed. Can you see that working out? Just what are your kind of initial thoughts when you saw that?
When I first saw it, I thought possibly a good move. I would have chosen to go to Crystal Palace if I was Donny van de Beek myself. However, Everton are now linked or strongly linked with Dele Alli, a move for Dele Alli. And I know Newcastle are too, but Everton are strongly linked with a move for Dele Alli, which could jeopardise Donny van de Beek's starting spot in the team. It could just go from bad to worse for Donny van de Beek in his career. I've got my opinions on Donny van de Beek's ability and things like that myself, but in terms of a pure move, I don't think it's the right move. I would have gone to Crystal Palace myself if I was Donny.
You mentioned there about his ability. Do you, I'm intrigued now. You've got me intrigued whether you feel the same as me about him. When you say that, I don't know whether I'm taking this out of context here, but are you kind of saying that he's maybe not as good as people say he is, or do you think he's better than people say he is? Where do you stand on that?
No, I think there's a specific reason why 3 different managers have refused to start him and have made similar comments about him in his work ethic and him just not performing well enough in training. I don't think he's shown it particularly as how good he is when he's on the pitch for us, despite not getting as many minutes as he probably should do. But he's got to prove that he's worthy of them minutes, and he's got to prove that he's willing to want them minutes and work hard enough, and also prove his performances for them minutes. So I would, at the moment, my opinion is he's not as good as he's made out to be.
Stu, I'll come straight over to you on that one, because obviously me and you have had quite a few debates on this channel, because this might be a 50-50 split. Alexi, I'll come to you in a second after I've come to Stu on it, because I'm with Kian here. I'm not a huge Donny fan, I've got to be honest. But Stu, what do you kind of think off the back of that? And again, your kind of initial thoughts on his move to Everton?
Look, I'm sad to see him go on loan, but I think a loan move's the right path for him. I think Everton's a good fit. I think Palace would have been a good fit as well, but I think Everton, they're a bit more of a footballing team than Palace. Or they would have been when Donny was still there. Let's be clear, because the wing backs were pivotal to the way that they played, and I think somebody with the likes of Donny, and maybe if Dele Alli does go there, they'll be able to make them a bit more creative in the middle. It's all about attributes. But it's all about the types of players you have around you that can bring those attributes out of you. And we haven't seen Donny van der Beek. You don't become a bad footballer overnight when you move clubs. You just have to adapt. And Vilde Berisu is a great example of that in the women's team. She took a long, long time to adapt, but she was given a greater or a swifter opportunity than what Donny has. Well, look, none of us are there day in, day out. We don't know what his attitude is like in training. We don't know whether he's got this real fighting spirit that you need to succeed at Manchester United. But undoubtedly, he is a very, very, very talented footballer. And I just don't think we've used him. Well, we haven't used him at all. But, when we have used him, we haven't used him right. We haven't played to his strengths as a footballer. And, I always talk about calmness. I always talk about intelligence, during a game, and the intelligence to spot what's happening at any given time during a match. And, Donny has that ability. He's proven that when he was playing with Ajax, but he was playing with very, very similar types of players. So he wasn't just playing with one or two intelligent players, i.e. just wasn't playing with a Bruno. He was playing with quite a few. He had De Ligt in the team, didn't he? He had Ziyech in the team. He had the lad that went over to Barcelona. Forgive me, I can't remember his name, but he had similar. De Jong, that's it. He had similar type players, similar mentality around him, and it makes your life easier as a footballer. Anyone who plays the game will tell you that. If you've got a good communication, you've got a real good understanding with players that you're playing with week in, week out, it does make your life easier. I think at Everton, he'll have a new lease of life. He will play. I've seen a lot of people say, well, Donny's just wasting the move to Everton because he's not going to play. Well, why would you switch bench for bench? I mean, come on, nobody's that fucking stupid. He is going to play. And when you go anywhere on loan, you really hold the key. He will hold the key as a player to say, look, if I'm not going to play 10 or 15 matches between now and the end of the season, I shall stay here. Because it's a complete waste of time, an absolute waste of time. So he will have assurances that he will play. He's also, you've got to bear in mind, he's also going into a situation where there's a new manager, and that can only be good for him because everybody's starting afresh at that club. Not just Donny, he's going into everybody. Everybody's got to prove their worth to Lampard. Lampard's going to have a different way of playing. He's going to operate differently. And I think I'm not saying Lampard will get the best out of him. What I'm saying is when you go into that environment with a new manager, so Lampard walked in yesterday, stroke this morning, and Donny's walked in after him, that can only be good for the player. because everybody doesn't know what to expect. Okay, so yeah, for me, it's a good move. Sad to see him go. I'd like to see him come back in the summer because there is no option to buy. So, you know, I'd like to see him come back in the summer. It would have kicked on, got 6 months worth of Premier League. He's also got a chance now, don't forget, to go to the World Cup. You know, it's been made quite clear to him that if you're not playing, you're not going to get in the World Cup. So again, he's not going to move if he's not going to have that chance of playing because, you know, he wants to play for Van Gaal in the World Cup. So, yeah, for me, sad, but I think we could benefit as a club.
Go on, Alexi. Are you going to make this a 50-50 split on Donny, or are you with myself and Kieran?
So my thing with Donny has always been that there's a section of people who, when things are going badly, they look at one player as being the solution to the whole problem. So when it's going badly for Ole, there's a section of people in our fan base who went, yeah, Donny will solve it all. This is something that's been going on in our fan base for years. The reality is Donny would not solve it all, and he didn't. There's obviously the other section of people who think he's completely dreadful. I'm not sitting on the fence here, but what I'm saying is there's no way he's as good as some people say he is because we've not seen evidence of that. But I don't think he's as bad because there's not enough sample size. But what I would say is when I watched him play at Old Trafford, he always has a good backing from the fans, obviously, but he's been all right. Like, I've not been dazzled, really. He's been okay. Like, it's not the kind of player where, you know, you're thinking, oh, God, we've let him go. This is really, but he's been all right. And ultimately, if Ralph sees him as a number 10, he's not as good as Bruno Fernandes. And Bruno Fernandes is going to play every week. So I don't get the point in Donny being there. I think the reason Donny signed was, one, they didn't think Bruno would be as good as he was. And also, two, Pogba was probably going to leave back then, and he didn't. So he was probably signed to either come in for Pogba or to rotate with Bruno. Bruno ended up being really good, so then Donny doesn't have a use for. And I actually agree with what Kian said as well, that I think there's a reason that 3 managers haven't fancied him that much at all. That being said, obviously, I hope he does well at Everton with Lampard. Obviously, Lampard is quite a good person to coach Donny, I think, but we'll really see whether he can handle the physical aspect of it, because that seems to have been the issue for all 3 managers, was the physicality of it. That's why you see McTominay over Van der Beek. But I think the hysteria over him is very exaggerated, and it's just because people, when things are going badly for the team, always like to think that one player will come and solve it all. We've seen it over the years with loads of players, and it's obviously not the case. He wouldn't come in and solve it all. But yeah, it's going to be a test for him. And I think we'll actually find out by May whether or not he's good enough for the Premier League, because
he'll be all right. He'll be all right.
Yeah, well, I do hope so. And, you know, there's clearly something there, but while Bruno Fernandes is still about, what's his purpose? And it got to the point where I just found it quite sad at the end, really. Like every game he'd warm up in front of TRA and we'd all sing his name. He never really came on, and when he did come on, it would always be on the 88th minute for about 2 minutes, and he just looked so upset. And I'm sure he's a lovely bloke, but it is just sad. But yeah, he's just got to hope that Dele Alli doesn't nick his position, because that would be really, really tragic. Like, that would just be like, but yeah, he's in a long-winded way. My answer is there's no way he's as good as some people say he is. I'm not going to say he's rubbish. I just think he's okay, but I'm not that upset that he's gone, to be honest.
I'm going to say a phrase here, and it's kind of an open question to anyone who wants to jump on the back of this. Is there a worry with Donny that he's such a systems player that he would only work in a specific team? That now we see this a lot with Liverpool players. A lot of their squad actually is quite average. You look at that midfield especially, they're very average, but because they're very system players and under Klopp's system, they work so well, it makes them look better than they are. So is there a worry with Donny that maybe he needs that Ajax kind of system around him to make him look that? I don't know. I'm speculating, because obviously we're not on the training bit.
Yeah, that's a strong possibility for sure.
He does. If you look at his time with Ajax, he played 13 matches as a 6. I think he played 16 or 17 as an 8, and then the rest was a 10. So it just shows versatility. And I've always said, Connor, as you well know, any player that plays at the elite level should be versatile. You know, you shouldn't be just a one-trick pony, to coin a very, very old phrase. And Donny isn't. But at Ajax, you're institutionalized. You really are. You're put into a system and you play that system rigidly through from the age of 8 till you hit the first team. And that's what happens. And so it's not far-fetched at all that you mention that, because it's very, very true. Now, whether Lampard will adopt that type of thing going at Everton, I don't know. But you know as well as I do, Connor, and I'll repeat it for the umpteenth time, a system, you kick off with a system and that's it. You fall into, the defensive element of the game as a system, but you never attack in a system. And that's the key. And that's where intelligent footballers come in. That's where intelligent footballers win you matches, because they know and they can understand, they can read what's happening in front of them. And you know what? Donny has that ability, but he's never been able to show that. And when you're lining up, unfortunately, alongside 2-8s, and they are 2-8s, which is a Fred and a McTominay, they are more box-to-box players. Fred in particular has proven that under Ralph, when he's had that license to go forward, etc. Then there's always this gaping hole at 6. There's always that gaping hole. And for fear of repeating myself again, you know what I think. The quartet, the holding midfielder, the 2 centre-halves and the goalkeeper are critical to any time. And when you go back to the team that he's played in, such as Ajax, they had that quartet. And they knew what they were doing at any given time. And it made his life a lot easier. And we've never had that real strong quartet. Even now, when you look at Varane and you look at Maguire, there's still holes to be picked. In answer to your question, you're right.
Yeah, I think, Kean, I'm going to come to you with this question, because I'm sorry to put this on you, because I don't even know how I would answer it. But Stu's talking there about intelligent footballers, and I do actually agree. I think Donny is struggling with that. Now, he's going to Everton. Now, no disrespect to Everton, but I don't think they've got any more intelligent players than we have. I mean, you look at Stu's talking there about the back line. I mean, they played, I think it was Kenny, Mina, Holgate, and Ben Godfrey as their kind of back four, and I think it was Decore and Gomez in the middle. Now, Gomez, I actually think is a good player. But do you think he's going to struggle there potentially if he does need these kind of players around him? I mean, he's not really going to get too much of that at Everton, surely.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he will struggle there. I think that's one of the reasons why it's a bad move. With Crystal Palace, they've got a clear team in the sense of they've got some good players around them. They're going through a kind of transition period with Patrick Vieira, in the sense where he's just took over this season, and they're doing very well since he's taken over. Now, I would have chosen to go, like I said, I would have chosen to go to Crystal Palace, and if he needs better players around him, he could play with Conor Gallagher. He could play with these players. He could play with Wilfred Zaha there, Odsonne Edouard, Michael Elise, these sorts of players. Whereas Everton just haven't got that. They've not got the squad depth, and they've not got the good enough starting 11 around Donny van de Beek for him to sort of be played to the best of his potential, if that's what you would like to call it.
Yeah, it's interesting, Alex. I'll let you have the last word on Donny before we move on to another midfielder. But do you kind of agree with that then, that maybe he will struggle at Everton because of the kind of lack of personnel around? I mean, I'm just looking at their squad now. I mean, you're looking at, obviously Calvert-Lewin's been out with injury. He's kind of in and out of the squad. Richarlison the same. They've got players like Rondon and Gordon coming up as a youngster. Damari Gray's kind of been their standout. I don't know. I just think, the more I think about it, the more I think he'll do okay there, but I can't see him setting it alight because he's not got top talent around him either.
Well, I think the problem is he's left probably the first most toxic club in England for the second one. Everton are an incredibly toxic institution. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen, but the amount of booing they do, it's unreal.
Every game.
And things always fall apart at Everton. I mean, to be fair, though, I don't think I buy the idea he's not around good players, because Doucouré and Allen is better than our midfield.
Yeah.
It's better than our midfield. So playing alongside them, Calvert-Lewin up front. But, I think Frank Lampard is actually quite good at developing footballers. I think where he struggled at Chelsea was when all the big kind of like with Ole, when all the big signings came in, is when it all went badly. But if you look at what he did with Mason Mount, with Reece James, with Tomori, with Tammy Abraham, he actually did really well at developing them. And as he's a midfielder himself, he might be able to help Lampard out. Obviously, the problem is if he'd gone to Palace, Vieira has quite a clear way of playing. So we fit into a system more. But I think maybe just having Frank Lampard teaching you, it can only really help you, I guess. And yeah, I hope he does well. And I just hope, how he does is going to depend on how the team do, obviously. But if it goes really toxic there, Van der Beek will be the symbol of Lampard. Because he's his first signing and all that, and they kind of conjoin. So we've just got to hope it goes well. But yeah, no, I would argue he's probably going to a team with a better midfield than ours, to be honest.
Can I just get the last word in there? We were talking about Dele Alli being linked to Everton. He's now officially signed his Everton contract. This is from Fabrizio Romano 5 seconds ago. I've just had a notification. So that could be big news for Donny van der Beek.
It depends where Donny wants to. I mean, we could have this conversation, right? Isn't it? I think it depends where Donny wants to play, because you'd assume Ali would. The thing is, Everton have been playing 4-4-2, obviously under Benitez. Now that will probably change with a new manager coming in. If Ali will likely be the 10, so if Donny wants to play 10, he's not going to get in. I don't think ahead of Ali. Whether he tries to fit in, let's say Ali at 10, Donny at 8, maybe, I don't know. We're all kind of speculating where he fits in, but it does seem a strange one that they've signed 2 players in the same position. When you could argue Everton don't really need,
do you know
2 players like that.
Why he signed Ali though is because the younger version of Dele Alli is the closest thing I've seen to Frank Lampard. He was like a kind of goal hanging midfielder. He was really, really good, scoring a lot of goals for Tottenham early on. And I've never seen someone look so much like what Frank Lampard was. Frank Lampard was an incredible goal scorer, but a lot of what he did was kind of getting in the box and getting goals. And I think he probably sees himself in Dele Alli, and that's why he wants to kind of try and revitalise him.
I think Dele Alli's lost his time, and though he's completely lost his time, and he doesn't know where he is on the pitch half the time. Although, I do agree with you. I think when he was 20, 21, we came from NK Dons, he had that ability to kind of drift in at the very, very, very last minute, Lampard-esque. In fact, Frank Lampard was the absolute master of doing it. Scholes was good in his early youth, but Lampard was the absolute master of it, made a career out of it, even to the age of 33, 34. But Ali's lost his way. I mean, he completely has lost his way. He's lost everything that made him what it was. And I said, there's been a raft of young players that have done that, and we don't need to go through all of those. It was a conversation we were having a couple of weeks ago. But I think Donny and Dele will complement each other. And I think Donny will sit as the 8. I think he'll be a better 8. You can have Alan as a holding midfielder. And then you can have Donny and Ali, and I think they'll do quite well. They'll be a good fall for Calvert-Lewin when he comes back, or as Charlison. But you've got to make sure those 2 stop sulking. But going back to styles of play, don't forget Everton's, it's going to be ripped to pieces now. Whatever you were doing under Benitez, forget, because this is now how you're going to play. This is what I want from you. This is what I expect. And if you don't deliver, you're out. And if you remember Lampard's early days at Chelsea, he's very fluid in his play. And I think that will suit Donny and Ali, Dele Alli quite well.
Yeah, it was very similar about talking about Lampard. The kind of last thing I'd say on it is you only have to look at his time at Derby as well. The kind of football that they played, it was good football at time, well, for the majority of that time. So yeah, I think we'll have to see. Like I said, nobody knows with loan deals. That's the thing with loan deals. It's a 50-50. It's a flip of a coin. It can either go really well, or it could be the end of Donny's obviously United career. So we'll have a show in about 6-7 weeks time. We'll evaluate it then with with the 4 of us. I just want to move on, because we are just over halfway through. Talk about another player, another midfielder that was due for a loan about 4 hours ago, and then it came out that United had blocked it. Not quite sure why. So I'm going to come to each of you on it. Jesse Lingard, Stu. What are your kind of thoughts on him? Because it looked so likely that he was moving, and then it's just we're blocking it for some reason.
Yeah, look, I'm perplexed, just like everybody else is. I think everybody's kind of looking at it, wondering what's going on. Are we too greedy? Are we not? If we're asking for big money for the loan, so we should. Newcastle are dripping in money. We've been used and abused for years by clubs. Every time Manchester United come knocking for a player, the price doubles. And then sometimes in Maguire's case, it quadrupled at that particular time. But if we are asking for extra money, I don't see any reasons. Without stating the obvious, it could be, squad depth. We're worried about squad depth. It could be that Raniak has said to him, I am going to use you. I know Lingard was particularly keen to move. I think it was more West Ham, wasn't it, than Newcastle, but he was keen to move. Is he going to sulk? I don't know. I mean, he can sit on his contract now for 6 months, can't he, and not play if he doesn't want to. I mean, the problem is the power is now with Lingard. But we obviously didn't get what we wanted. We didn't get what the club wanted for him or felt, was a fair valuation of him. And that's all I can think of, really. It's a very, very strange situation. But I'm guessing with recent revelations, there's been a rethink in terms of squad depth, and I would suggest that's probably got a lot to do with it.
Yeah, definitely. I will just briefly mention it. It's not something, because I've just seen this comment here. So we're not going to be talking about the Greenwood situation. Obviously, it's an ongoing investigation now, so we're going to leave it there. It's gone beyond football. We don't feel as a channel that it's right that we talk about it, because it's not a footballing matter anymore. So we'll leave it there. All links to all kind of domestic abuse helplines are all going to be in the description for the foreseeable now. So yeah, if anyone is obviously suffering, you're not alone. Make sure you get the help that you need and deserve, and all the contact numbers will be in the comments. But as for the Greenwood situation, obviously when we talk about squad depth, kind of comes under that, but we won't be discussing the actual situation itself. So yeah, Keane, I'll come to you then. Obviously on Lingard, like I said, it looks so likely that he was moving, and it didn't. What's kind of your initial thoughts over the last kind of few hours watching that develop?
I've got very mixed thoughts about this. I would say most of me is actually glad about this, because we have got very limited squad depth with Donny van de Beek going, with other players unavailable, and we just can't afford to lose any more players. We're losing player after player after player. We've just lost Martial as well. So for Martial to go out on loan and Ahmad to go out on loan and other players to be unavailable, it's very difficult to lose Jesse Lingard despite him not playing much. I also think when Bruno Fernandes is going to start many other games, more games than Jesse Lingard will. But when Bruno Fernandes isn't fit or needs a rest or whatever, I think Jesse Lingard should be starting. He proved to me last year at West Ham that he is good enough especially for the Premier League, but possibly good enough to be in a United team as a squad player. So I'm quite glad about Jesse Lingard staying, to be quite honest with you.
Interesting take. I wouldn't have said that one, even though, to be fair, I don't fully disagree. I'll come back to my thoughts in a second. Alexi, your kind of initial thoughts over the last kind of few hours around Lingard?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously a big part of it is due to events out of the club's control. But other than that, I think, it's all very weird, because we sent him out on loan. He came back. He then wanted to leave, and we said, no, you're going to play. He didn't play. We got to January. He asked Ralph if he could leave. Ralph said yes. He asked Ralph if he could leave again. Ralph said yes. And the owners blocked it. I mean, there's a lot of factors involved in this. I mean, one of them is potentially we don't want to strengthen West Ham, because we're now at the point as a football club where we're actually competing with West Ham United. Another one touted as well was about Newcastle, that we don't essentially want to help keep them in the Premier League because we're aware that they're going to be a very big threat in the future, which they are. I mean, in a few years, they're going to be completely dominant because they've got so much money. Obviously, I really hope they get relegated to the Championship and then to League One, and they get liquidated. But obviously, yeah, I think it seems a bit unfair on him, but I equally don't. I'm sorry, all this nonsense about like, oh, I'm being, Lingard saying that he feels like he's being held against his will at the club, and pushing Sixers and West Ham shirts. I'm like, I know it's a very kind of basic point that people make all the time, but I do sometimes think, for normal people who watch football, like we don't have that much money and we have to go to work or uni, whatever we do, and just grind our whole lives. So then hearing a footballer moan about being on 200 grand a week and having to go into work and train and then go train for an hour and go home. I know it's a very basic human point, but I always find it very, very out of touch when they do that. I think Rashford's done a lot to kind of break down the barrier between players and fans, but I think that stuff with Lingard, I don't particularly like. However, he's here now. Maybe he can be of some use to us, but ultimately we're losing him on a free transfer in the summer now. But I mean, he's obviously a very good footballer, but I hate to say it again because I made this point about Donny, but Lingard is not as good as a footballer as Bruno is. So, and we don't want him on the right wing again. That wasn't very good before. So, once again, I just don't see how he's going to play really. So it's baffling, but obviously, variety of factors involved.
It's interesting you said it and talking about right wing because Andrew's just mentioned a name. I forgot we had one, Matt. I completely forgot he was a United player then until Andrew's just mentioned him there.
Greatest player in the Premier League.
I bloody love fan matter as well. And the fact that maybe he will get more game. Well, I say that, we probably won't. But maybe he will be pushed up the pecking order, so to speak. But yeah, I think I agree with what everyone's kind of said, to be honest. I think recent events have kind of maybe forced the club's hand a little bit. Obviously, we let Martial go out. We've let Ahmad go. There's not really too much, Ronaldo and Cavani, as good as they are getting on a bit. So maybe we do need a bit of fresh legs up there as well to kind of support, Rashford, Sancho, and Elanga now. So yeah, I think I can see why. But I get my kind of final question on Lingard. Obviously, his contract, unless someone corrects me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's obviously out in the summer. Yeah. There's a potential we lose him on a free. I think that's very likely. I just want to come to each of you on kind of your thoughts on that. Do we fully expect him now to leave on a free in the summer? And just kind of your thoughts on that, because to me, again, it just shows bad business again. Everyone goes on about the Glazers being good businessmen. We're letting go of another, let's say, minimum £10 million asset again, aren't we?
Well, people do say that, but they've got very, very short memories. Because in the summer, there's £1.5 billion worth of footballers, including two of the most expensive footballers of all time, going on free transfers. That's Mbappe and Dembele. If he doesn't move in this window, he is a free agent in the summer. Two of the and those and then you've got the ridiculous deal buyout clause for Haaland at 64 million. If that's the case, when everyone knows in the current market he's a $200 million player. So. No, I don't think it is. And it isn't, because the agents are now really steering players to free transfers, and they're steering them around for one reason only. It's money. The agents will get a much bigger slice of the pie because there's no transfer fee. And because there's no transfer fee, players are getting more and more money. So that's why you're seeing so many. Dybala is another one. He's a free agent in the summer. There's so many high quality, or what you'd regard as high quality footballers, way, way, way above Lingard in terms of popularity and in terms of, playability and stuff of that nature. So, no, I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all. And it would have been driven by Lingard and his agent rather than the club. Oh, Pogba. He's another one, isn't he? I forgot about Pogba. Yeah, I forgot he's another one. So there's a long list of high quality, high caliber footballers that are free. And it looks like Mbappe signed a pre-contract with PSG. PSG walked out, 200 million on a Neymar, 170 million for him, 170 million quid, and he's going to walk away for free. And I said on a show, if you remember, Connor, the only way Mbappe will ever move if he goes on a free, because he'll never ever be sold, because nobody would ever pay 250 million for him. And so that's what's happened. And PSG, this Mbappe Dembele deal, if Dembele goes, look at Coutinho. Coutinho's on loan. I think he's in a free in the summer. He's under 40 million euros. You could see the demise of the large transfer fee at the minute, because clubs will be wary about this sudden trend of free transfer. So United aren't the only club that have got this. I mean, what would Dybala go for, do you think, in the current market if he was under contract still? 100? Yeah, there you go. And I think he's a free. So, you know, look, it's ridiculous. Aaron Ramsey is a great example, actually, right? Where he went to Juventus. He went to Juventus from Arsenal on a free transfer, ran his contract down and got 400k a week at Juventus. And now he's ending up in Rangers, and the Juventus having to pay, I think, 90% of his salary. You know, they just need him gone. They just need him gone to do all of this. So, look, like I say, Connor, people are saying that, but they've got very, very short memories, and they need to look about what's going on in the current market. And now everything's player driven.
Yeah, and I completely agree with everything you just said, Stu. And Arsene Wenger actually predicted this a few years ago. He said
he did
getting so inflated that it's just going to reach a point and break. And that's exactly what's happened, because it's not practical to keep spending 150 to 200 million pounds on players. And I think the pandemic as well has really kind of broken that trend. And kind of linked to what Stu was saying, you look over the last 5 years, you've got Coutinho for 140, Dembele for 100, Griezmann for 120.
Oh, he went for 120, didn't he? Yeah.
Have any of them succeeded at all? No. They've been terrible. I mean, you know, and another one recent, Lukaku, 100 million. He's been terrible. So I think clubs are kind of realizing you can't buy a player for that much money, really. I mean, Neymar for 200 million was ludicrous at the time. And, you know, it's not really been worth 200 million because he's not even won them the Champions League. He's injured all the time. So I think clubs have realized, you know, there's a limit to what you can pay. And I think it's like a kind of like how the actual global financial market works. It's just going to break and come all the way back down, and then it'll probably work its way up again.
I don't think it'll ever reach the heights of, like you say, 200 million again. I'd be amazed if it does. I think the last big deal you're likely to see is whatever happens with Haaland. Well, I mean, whatever. I mean, that's bad business by Dortmund. You know, for such a well-run club, I cannot believe they allowed that to go on with the value that he's got. Lewandowski, you know, I'm sure he's on a free, isn't he, in the summer? Robert Lewandowski. No, look, he wouldn't go for 100 million, but it's still be north of 60 or 70 for what you're going to get. So there's a hell of a lot of money on the open market, and there's going to be a lot of salary being offered on it. So,
yeah. It's an interesting debate, and French, another one there, João Felix. I'm pretty sure that was close to 100.
That was 100 million. João Felix was. De Ligt was 60 million to Juventus. He's not set the world alight, has he? Grealish 100. There's clubs are worried, and look, you know, even if you sold Lingard in the summer, or you sell him this summer, not that you're going to get any value for him, but you're looking at 20 million to United. It's an irrelevance. It really is. And so you're best off just getting rid of him, because what you're doing, you're getting the salaries off there, and it's the salaries that are hampering the cash flow. Because Lingard's, isn't he on about 120 grand a week or something ridiculous? Phil Jones is on 120 grand a week. Martial's on 250. The salaries we've probably freed up, I don't know, 3 million.
And Stu, on that as well, have you seen, all of you, I don't know if you guys have seen, but like Mo Salah is asking for about 300k a week or something. Liverpool were kind of not doing it because it shows how broken our club is, right? Mo Salah, I think, is on about 50 grand less than Martial is, and probably only about 70k more than Phil Jones. Now, it doesn't show you what mismanagement does, because Liverpool have got a very clear structure in place. They've been run extremely well, I think, over the last years, and they've got a wage structure. Whereas because we've just gone round just giving all these contracts out, that's why we're essentially so broken with all these players on high contracts, because we've just completely bloated it. I mean, the Sanchez deal did it, really, didn't it? Because he was on, 400 grand a week.
Oh, something ridiculous, yeah.
that's plateaued everything. And someone like Salah, if he came to United, we'd probably pay him about 500 grand a week. I'm not even joking.
And here's the interesting thing, actually, Lexi. You make a really good point about Salah, and it's I think it's forgotten about, isn't it? It's gone under the radar, probably because of the AFCON. But you're talking arguably the best player in world football right now, and Liverpool are stalling on offering him the contract. And I like that. I like that. It's a good point you make, actually, Lex. I forgot about Mo Salah. It's most clubs would. Can you tell me what you would like? Just put the number there, and then we'll do your contract around your number. Because imagine taking Mo Salah out of that Liverpool side and his goals out of that Liverpool side.
Yep.
Where would they be? I mean, it's a question. We don't know this. So it's quite refreshing, isn't it? Where a club is saying, no, we're not going to pay you that amount of money. Well, let's do it as a bonus related thing. So it's a good point you make. It's a good point you make.
All clubs were run like that. Well, Barcelona and United and Arsenal have all been run into the ground because they've all, like, Arsenal let Ozil go on a free and Aubameyang's gone on a free.
That is amazing, Aubameyang, isn't it? 350 grand a week each. Yeah. Look at that Aubameyang deal.
I wasn't too sure how he went on a free because
we don't know.
I was speaking to someone in the group chat that I'm in, and he's sort of an up and coming journalist, and he was saying he wasn't too sure how that worked from the people he spoke to either, and it was just a bit weird because he was under contract 1 minute and then next minute he's not under contract and signed for Barcelona. It's a little bit crazy.
You can get mutual cancellations, can't you, of contracts?
Okay.
I know that Mkhitaryan did a mutual contract, didn't he, to get to Roma? He cancelled his contract with Arsenal mutually, I think it was, and he didn't take any money for it. Willian did the same, didn't he? Mutually cancelled it, didn't take any money. You can do it. We obviously know there's a backhander underneath, and the player's not going to go scot-free, but it means that we're not paying up your contract, etc. So they'll just come to a mutual. But Aubameyang's contract is that big because he only signed it 18 months ago, didn't he? And he's done exactly like Ozil, Alexa. You're absolutely right. 350 a week. Thanks very much. I've now retired because they can't get rid of him. They can't get rid of him, and there's no way Barcelona could afford to pay him anywhere near that amount of money. And you couldn't afford a transfer fee. They just don't have that. That's why they're desperate to get Dembele off the books, aren't they? Because of his salary. So it's interesting times. And I for one, am glad, and I do hope the bubble bursts in football because, whatever's happened over the last few months and years with certain players, it may not happen if all this hadn't escalated in terms of salary.
I've spoken about this a lot on social media, and it's not just like to do with one specific player. It's obviously a massively bigger picture, and the money in football. Because it's going to sound quite relevant what I'm about to say, but I've spent quite a lot of my childhood in and out of NHS hospitals, and the money in football in comparison to the money in the NHS, it disgusts me. I sit there sometimes and I'm sort of like, it's kind of really crazy. It's a bit sort of disgusting how it's run. And I tweeted something, I think it was yesterday, and I said, footballers and agents, there has to be a cap on the money. And I know it's virtually impossible to do. It's virtually impossible to sort of implement. But in my opinion, there has to be some form of cap or a mutual sort of agreement via clubs where they say, we're going to be defiant towards this agent and this sort of what you would call super agent. There's a few of them out there, and not give these huge contracts, because when you're paying 120 million for Antoine Griezmann, the agent is also getting around 50-60 million in sign-on fees and things like that. It's absolutely ridiculous. Sort of the money has to sort of come down eventually, because when are we going to get to the point where we're buying football players for the amount of money that we can buy a football club for? Do you know what I mean? 300 million pound. We can't get to that point. It has to come down, like you say. It has to.
Because the interesting thing about Griezmann was that he was earning close to $1 million a week as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Something like 950.
Unbelievable.
I didn't even know he was anywhere near that. I mean, nobody knew Messi was on 1.5 million a week, let alone Griezmann at night. You sign a contract like that, what do you expect from an employee? You were paying them that amount of money. Well, I'm not coming in today. Well, I know of a story, and it's only a short story, but it just typifies. And this was back in the early 2000s. A Liverpool player wanted some time off, and the manager at the time. So I won't say who it is, but the manager at the time said to him, "No, we need you for the game on Saturday." But the wife's told me I've got to go. No, we need you for the game. And he said to him, "Well, what happens if I don't turn up? We'll fine you 2 weeks' wages." All right, there you go. And he got the 2 weeks' wages, cash in his pocket, and he just dropped it on his desk and then played the game over the weekend. And there's nothing the gaffer could do because, as you well know, Lexi and you guys, the mandate is 2 weeks maximum fine, isn't it? Salary. That's the mandate. And he just strolled up. See you Monday, lads. And there's nothing anyone could do.
Well, I was discussing with. Sorry to interrupt there. I was discussing with my driving instructor. I often have very good conversations about football with my driving instructor, and he was sort of suggesting an idea that possibly in the future, in the far future, that a footballer is paid in the Premier League, let's say £100,000 per week maximum, and then there's bonuses involved after that, rather than these just extortionate wages, which clubs can't even afford to pay. Barcelona can't afford to pay these wages. United are not going to be able to afford to pay these wages for much longer. So there has to be a sort of, like we're saying, there should be a sort of cap, let's say £100,000 per week, and then if you score 5 goals within 15 games, I'm just giving a wild example, then if you score that amount, you get another 50 grand or something like that. Just a little implementation like that could change everything for the better.
Yeah, I do hope so. Please. There's plenty of players like that. Like I said, obviously this conversation started around Jesse Lingard, and I think it just epitomises, the reason why we spoke about that is because Lingard is a prime example of somebody running their contract down, albeit he does want to move. But it's another player that, we've kind of hanging on to. And again, like we just discussed there, there's plenty of players out on a free contract that are going to go as a free agent in the summer because of this kind of thing happening. So there's just a couple of topics that I just want to round off with. I will just briefly go on to what the thumbnail and the show title is. We'll come to each of you quickly on this. Obviously, we've got a lot of players out on loan now, academy and first team now. Just kind of each of your thoughts on who we think is going to thrive the most. Obviously, Ahmad has started well up in Rangers. Obviously, we don't know how that's going to develop. Obviously, Donny going to Everton, Martial going out to Spain. We've got a few of the youngsters out there. Obviously, Mengi's gone Birmingham. Laird's moved up to Bournemouth and hasn't played a game yet, which I know he's had a couple of little injury niggles, but that seems like a waste to me because he was doing well.
He's not likely to play, is he, at Bournemouth either? They've signed 4 today, haven't they?
Yeah. So I guess my question to each of you, Stu, I'll come to you first on then. Who do we think is going to, if you could pick one player that's going to benefit the most or thrive the most, whichever way you want to word it, who do you think that's going to be when it comes back to the summer?
I don't think Ahmad, because I think it's way too easy, the Scottish Premier League. And if you looked at his opening game on Sunday, I mean, he was like streets. I'm talking streets ahead of anybody on that pitch, miles ahead. They just couldn't cope with him. Ross County just couldn't cope with him. Ahmad probably thought, what the fuck am I doing here? It must be like playing under 16 football for him. He was miles better than them. The one I think will benefit is Donny. I truly believe it. I think Mengi will do very, very well at Birmingham. I think their setup is great. We saw Chong was excellent, and I think we've clearly got a good relationship with Birmingham City. But I think Donny will be the one to really and truly benefit. I hope Martial finds his form again over in Sevilla. I think that's a good move for him. Although, my thoughts, he'd be better off suited here alongside Ronaldo for me. But anyway, I think Donny will be the one. I just think Lampard. I think Alexi touched on it. I think he's right. I think Lampard would just sprinkle that magic dust on him that we need or want to see.
No, that's a fair point.
Right,
same question for yourself.
I actually think Anthony Martial will thrive the most. My opinion has changed an awful lot over the past few weeks on Anthony Martial. I do think he's still had his issues at United, obviously, but Sevilla are second in the La Liga, and Anthony Martial ended his time at United. Well, his time ended at United on a very positive note, with him changing the game in basically the last minute of the game. And on the pitches and everything like that, which we all know the Sevilla admin has been trigger happy with Martial. On the pitches, Anthony Martial looks very, very happy. And he hasn't looked as happy as that in quite a few years, I would argue. So I think Anthony Martial is going to thrive. And I hope so. And I hope he can come back and regain form.
Yeah, good call. Good call.
Yeah. Alexi, for yourself?
I think the one
he thinks Pereira will go quite well.
Oh my god, I forgot about him.
We sold him for 7 million, I think.
Oh, was he gone?
I might be wrong. I saw a rumor or something along those lines.
Oh, that's okay. Oh, I'm sad about that. Sorry, I forgot what the question. Oh, yeah. So, Garner. I think Garner is always really solid out on loan. Like every year, he's pretty good, and he doesn't really have the because you know some players go out on loan and they're really good or really rubbish. Garner's always consistently really good out on loan, and he's been out on loan for a few years. And I think next season might either be the season he gets loaned to a Premier League club or comes back to United. So I think he's probably the best bet. And also, you know, playing in the Championship, he's really going to be physically able now to play in the Premier League. So I think he's not the most glamorous one, but I think he is doing the best and he will be the most consistent. And especially when we have no midfielders, I think he'll be back next year.
Yeah, it's a good shout. I think for me, I'm going to stick with a player, providing he gets game time. The one that I think Martial is probably my second shout, I think, because my only worry with Martial, I think, is he going to stand out in Spain? It's obviously an easier league. Maybe he might do better there, but I don't know. We know the kind of player Martial is, I think. So the reason why I wouldn't say him, but I think I'm going to stick with a player I've been raving about all season, purely just because of what he did at Swansea, but Ethan Laird. Now, I really hope he can get into this Bournemouth side, because with Wan-Bissaka not really been favoured by Ralph, and Dalot's obviously still got his deficiencies that people know, Laird has got a massive chance. We talk all the time on these shows and about, you know, academy shows that it's all about timing. You've got to be better than the player you're replacing, but secondly, you've got to have that bit of luck and that bit of timing. Laird has got this opportunity now, with fullbacks being a bit of a question mark. He can play on both sides, but he's definitely more of a right back. If he can get in that Bournemouth side, potentially win the league or gain promotion with a side, that's going to give him huge confidence into next year. And he could, for me, push that right back starting slot. He's shown it at Swansea, he showed it at MK Dons. I think he's done really well. I question the Bournemouth move, because at the moment he's not got into that side. There has been injuries. He did get injured slightly in his last game for Swansea, but they do speak highly of him at Bournemouth as well. So, yeah, I think I'm going to stick with Ethan Laird, just because I really hope he can kick on and push into the first team next season, because I think he's that good. It's not often you see players in the academy and think, yeah, you know, because everyone in the academy is good, but are they that next level to push on into the first team? Not all of them are going to make it. And it leads me on to a question that we may as well round the show off with this question from Jarvis about obviously the lack of transfers. I don't really know what people expected. Obviously, it was rumoured all around that we were going to get a midfielder and all this. I never bought into any of that, if I was totally honest. But it's a good question, actually. Kind of the youth players, like, you know, Fernandez, Savage, talking about Hannibal there as well. I'll come to each of you, go around the house for one final time. Stu, can you see any of those players making a breakthrough?
No. They'll get promoted to first team training, and that's as far as it'll go. The reason we are, in my opinion, are not signing anyone is because what's the point in bringing in a player for 6 months that might not be fancied by the new manager? Won't fit his playing style. He doesn't want him. I think we've got an idea who our new manager is. I would imagine, because Raniak, there's one thing about Raniak, whether you raise him or not as a coach, he's one smart cookie and he knows how to run a football club. And by doing what he's done, he's trimming the squad down. I would imagine he's already in dialogue with the new manager. And I would kind of imagine that Raniak will know the new manager's targets, what the way he wants to play football, etc., etc., etc. So I don't think spending 40 million for Hadara or whatever, if it doesn't suit the new manager, it's a waste of 40 million quid. So I think we're just going to get what we got, see out to the end of the season, see what happens.
Definitely. Kean, same question to yourself.
I don't think either. There's one player that isn't mentioned on that list that I would love to be implemented, who I've specifically kept an eye on over the past few years, and that's Charlie McNeil. I absolutely adore the lad. It's banging in goals for fun, but I don't think, like Stuart said, I think only first team training, possibly, maybe 1 or 2 debuts in a cup game. If I can't see that happening though. So yeah, I think that's the reason why. The exact thing that Stu said, which is basically we've got an idea of who our new manager is. I did say this a few weeks ago. I said something like I'm relatively happy we didn't buy a midfielder, because what would be the point of bringing in someone for 6 months when we could get a marquee signing like a Declan Rice or Wilfred Ndidi as an example, someone like that.
Yeah, it's a fair shout. And Alexi, are you gonna make it a full house on this opinion?
Well, you never know. I mean, Mesbury is now with the first team, and you just don't know, because Donny's gone now. We've only got 3 midfielders really: McTominay, Fred, and Matic. There could be a Louis van Gaal situation where everyone just gets injured and someone might have to come in, and that's kind of, I think that's the only way we're going to see any of youth players, unless essentially our season goes so awfully that we're 10th and there's nothing to pay for, and we think just throw them in. But I think realistically we're not going to see them.
Just one quick bit of breaking news. I don't know whether did you see advertised on TV that Eni Luca and Roberto Carlos were being auctioned off to play at Sunday League 2?
No,
that's news to me.
Anyway, in Shrewsbury, which is about 10 miles down the road, Roberto Carlos will be making his debut for the Bull in the Barn. he's signed,
wow.
He signed for the Bull in the Barn. It's amazing. That is, yeah. Shrewsbury, Bull in the Barn.
I'm a lives there. I might go over and go over.
It's like about 10 years. And it looks like Eni Luku's gone to Eastbourne-based team. But the Bull in the Barn won the eBay auction. There you go. So Roberto Carlos. There's a picture of him there.
It's got to be one of the craziest football stories of all time.
Great. So there you go. Carlos playing for. I'll tell you, the pictures. The Bull in the Barn are shite as well. I mean, they are woeful.
I hope they're not watching this. I hope their manager's not watching this. And
absolutely woeful. The Shrewsbury League's not great at all. But anyway, there you go. The Bull in the Barn. There you go. Breaking news.
That's huge.
It's huge news.
That is something else, isn't it?
I imagine he'll be on free kicks.
I don't quite know how to follow that. I can't remember what the initial question was about. It was about youngsters breaking in, wasn't it? I'll give my brief thoughts on that. I think Hannibal will train. I think he might get a couple of games. Savage might get a game. Fernandez, I don't think so, because we're pretty stacked at fullback, barring major injuries.
Good player though, Fernandez. I like him.
Yeah, he's the next player. If you're asking me who's going to break in next, it'll be Fernandez. I think he's streets ahead of what we've got in the academy at the moment. So it's ones to watch out for sure. Like Alexi said, though, if our season goes to shit and we drop down to 10th, we may just throw them all in, because what else is there to play for? And if I'm being totally honest, I'd rather us finish outside of Europe than finish in the Conference League. So I hope that we.
I won't be going to the Conference League game, that's for sure.
No, not me.
Definitely not.
Jake's welcome to my ticket there. Well, not like getting anyway. So, when you're a dad, Alexi, you'll if you keep your season ticket. How long you had yours?
3 years.
You okay? 28.
We're 9 years personally.
28 ours is, and but this year I haven't been able to go to a game yet. Jake's had it.
Well, do you know what though? If we're in the Conference League, that might be a chance to go then.
Well. He said to me the other day, he said, Dad, have you decided you're going to go to any games this year? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you can go to some, really. Well, can I go to chat? No, I'm going to that one. All right. What about that one? Well, I'm going up with Adam. Right, so basically, no.
Giving you no chance.
Well, no, basically not. It's anyway, it's having kids. Just wait to have kids, lads. That's what it's like. You're a bit young yet, Kian, but just
That's the best place to end on. But that's going to be a topic. Actually, I'm going to bring this up at the end of the season. Will Stu get to another game before the end of the season? That's going to be the question. I might actually put that as a poll on All for United in a bit. But we'll end it there anyway. Kian, before we go, do you want to just shout out obviously your channel, because I know you do a lot of work obviously on your own content as well.
Yeah, I've got a channel called Football Obsession on YouTube. Make sure you check it out. I've not done a live stream in about a week or so. We'll be doing one on Thursday if all goes to plan. So come and check it out. You're all welcome.
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen it, he's done a couple of interviews with the one and only Fabrizio Romano as well, which I thought was brilliant as well.
Didn't want to brag.
I'll do it for you.
Do too much of that.
Definitely go and check that out. Alexi, where can people find you? And to be honest, you've got so many followers on Twitter. People already probably know where you are. But yeah, Twitter at's there, isn't it? So
yeah, no, my Twitter at's just below. Follow me on that if you would like to. And
same for yourself, Stu.
Yeah, well, I'm down there, but nobody likes me anyway, so nobody follows me.
Yeah, definitely go and check these guys out, and obviously go and subscribe to Kian's channel as well while you're over there. But yeah,
I'll drop you a follow, Kian.
I appreciate that. Thank you for inviting me on, guys. I loved it.
Absolutely no worries. You'll definitely be back on soon, and as will Stu and Alexi as well. Myself and Benny will be back next week, I believe. I'm not quite sure which show we've got lined up, but obviously we've got shows for the rest of the week now. Obviously, Tactical Preview will be out for Middlesbrough on Friday because the men's side are back in action. Obviously, on the women's channel, we'll be covering all the content. We've got obviously Wednesday, the semi-final against Chelsea. A lot of us will be at that one as well. So there'll be some content on the main account as well. But yeah, make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.